The Orient floats somewhere between a dream and a deadline. A grand casino suspended over black water, dripping amber light, humming with money and cigarette smoke, and the particular desperation of people who believe tonight is their night. Nobody aboard is thinking about the hull. Julian is already in the thick of it, leaning across a baccarat table with the easy confidence of a man who has definitely been here before, even if he cannot, at this precise moment, remember arriving. He laughs at something the high roller says. The high roller laughs back. It's going great. Hudson stands at his post near the east corridor with a lanyard, a badge, and an expression of total professional composure. He has no memory of putting on the uniform. The badge has his photograph on it. He has decided not to think about this too hard. In the security hub, Ethan has his tablet open and a cable kit spread across the gray metal desk with surgical precision. Every monitor on the wall shows a different corner of the casino. He is already working. He does not look up when the door opens because nobody opens the door. At the bar, Kibben nurses something with ice and watches the room with the patience of a man waiting for something he already knows is coming. He doesn't know why he knows. The cord necklace at his throat, 10 thin strands, one shorter, one frayed, sits against his collarbone like a question he hasn't figured out how to ask yet. What he's watching is Madame Vesk. She sits at a private table near the stern, floor-length black gown, silver hair pinned architectural and severe, and a smile that has never once in its life reached her eyes. At her throat, on a fine platinum chain, hangs a small compass medallion etched with a spiral. Kibben looks at it for a long moment and feels something he cannot name. Jameson is filming all of it. He moves through the casino floor with his handheld camera raised, narrating in a half-murmur that nobody else can hear. And he finds everything beautiful. The light on the chips, the smoke curling through the chandeliers, the way Julian moves through a crowd like water finding a drain. He doesn't know why the first few seconds of tape already show a ballroom tilting into black water. Sanskriti pulls them into a kitchen service corridor between courses. Tight space, steam, and clattering plates on the other side of the door, everyone leaning close. She unrolls a blueprint she cannot remember drawing and speaks with the certainty of someone who has rehearsed this, even if the rehearsal has been erased. The target is the vault in the hull. Bearer bonds, deeds, Vesk's cash reserves, everything she's moving before the Orient gets demolished at dawn. Simple extraction, clean exit, everybody goes home. Sanskriti says this with complete confidence. Kibben, standing at the edge of the group, looks at the blueprint like he's checking her work. Daniela is introduced as the client's watchdog, there to verify the score is real and the right things get handed to the right people. She nods when Sanskriti describes her role, but her fingers keep drifting to her throat, to the chain that hangs there with a broken clasp, where something used to be and isn't anymore. She can't seem to stop touching the empty space. Cooper, who has been listening with the expression of a man already several steps ahead of everyone else toward chaos, produces the dollar bill scarf from somewhere inside his jersey and winds it around his neck with tremendous ceremony. Flora distraction, he says, like this was always the plan. Nobody argues, because, looking at him, it very obviously was. The con goes in clean. Cooper hits the roulette table like a small natural disaster, celebrating every number, wrong or right, buying rounds for strangers, producing the dollar bill scarf for a standing ovation that he personally started. Every floor manager within 60 feet migrates toward him like moths to a very loud, very solvent flame. Ethan kills the cameras sector by sector, Hudson's voice steady in his earpiece, feeding him the rotation codes from the security post in real time. On the monitor wall, one feed after another slides from live footage to seamless loops, the casino continuing to exist perfectly. In a fiction Ethan is writing from a gray metal desk. Julian extracts the vault access codes from a drunk VIP near the safe deposit counter with a handshake, a compliment about the man's watch, and a smile that could disarm a customs agent at 40 paces. The sealed envelope moves from the VIP's jacket to Julian's, without either of them quite acknowledging that it happened. Julian is very good at this. Drea takes the vault corridor alone, which is how she prefers every corridor. The safe-cracking kit is already unrolled in her hands before she reaches the bottom of the service stairs, the cold red-orange light making everything look like the inside of a developing photograph. She moves fast and quiet and with zero theater, which is its own kind of elegance. Then she reaches the vault door and stops. She raises her pen light. The door is massive, circular, covered in scratched numerals, and wrong. Everything down here is old. The door isn't. It's been installed within the last 6 months, and the spiral-etched dead center in its surface is not a manufacturer's mark. She's seen that spiral before. She looks down at her own hands, trying to remember where. In her earpiece, Sanskrit's voice, clipped and controlled. Hudson's patched through a radio intercept from the security hub. The demolition team is not arriving at dawn. They're already on site. Charges are planted. Detonation is in 90 minutes. Vesk moved the timeline, and cross-referencing what Julian heard near Vesk's private table, the math assembles itself into something ugly very fast. The 3 witnesses Vesk means to bury in the demolition are not random. They're the crew. The job doesn't exist. The blueprint, the tip, the client's watchdog, the entire beautiful story. Vesk built all of it so a crew with no paper trail would be found inside a demolition site. The vault was never the score. The vault was always the coffin. Kibin says quietly that this was always how it was going to go. The silence over the earpieces lasts about 3 seconds. Then Sanskriti asks him what he means. He opens his mouth. He closes it. He genuinely cannot explain how he knows. Only that he does. The same way you know a song before the music starts. Drea cracks the vault anyway. She needs to see what's inside, because the spiral on the door means something, and she is not a person who walks away from a question with a combination lock. The tumblers give. The door groans open on a narrow space that holds almost nothing. A locked metal case, Vesk's personal ledger, and, at the back wall, which should be solid hull, a faint phosphorescent fog curling softly from nowhere. Cooper, who followed her down because the roulette table stopped being interesting, leans past her shoulder and stares at the fog. It looks like the inside of a cloud, he says. Drea picks up the ledger without responding. Cooper reaches out and lets his fingers touch the edge of the fog. It doesn't move away. It curls toward him slightly, like it recognizes something. Then the building shudders. Not the full detonation, one charge, then another, popping in sequence in the lower decks. Vesk is hurting them. The Orient lists a few degrees to port, and somewhere above their heads, 6 floors of casino chips slide off their stacks in unison, and every patron on the floor looks down at the ground with sudden animal attention. Jameson, still on the floor, turns his camera toward the nearest mirrored column and watches a crack split the gold glass from floor to ceiling. He doesn't say anything. He just broadcasts it, live, to every earpiece in the crew. 5 seconds of a fracture spreading in silence, more eloquent than any commentary he could have offered. Hudson runs into trouble at the hub. 2 real guards, tipped that someone's in the server room, who look at him with the particular focused skepticism of people who are very good at their jobs. He gives them a story about a secondary system alert and a direct order from the floor director, delivered with absolute conviction, his badge at exactly the right angle. It almost doesn't work. He watches them go and breathes for the first time in 90 seconds. Sanskriti calls the audible. Original exit is gone. They go up through the service deck. But only if someone pulls Vesk away from the private elevator she's using to reach her own extraction point. The line goes quiet for a moment. Then Julian says he'll do it, in the tone of someone choosing the most interesting option available to them. He walks up to Madame Vesk's private table and sits down across from her like he's been expected. She looks at him with the mild, painted smile that never goes anywhere near her eyes. Julian straightens his cuffs. Then he tells her, pleasantly and precisely, that her ledger is gone. The smile stays. Everything underneath it goes very, very still. While Vesk's entire attention is on Julian, her gray eyes doing the math, calculating exits, calculating leverage, Sanskriti moves. She intercepts Vesk's pre-staged emergency packet from the private elevator bay. New identity documents, a new name, a new life purchased with money that officially ceased to exist. She swaps it for the demolition ledger and a note. We have the override codes and your new name. Sit down. In the vault corridor, Daniela has the ledger open and is reading. Then she stops. She goes back 2 pages. She reads the same line twice. Her name is there, not as a victim, not as a target, as a mechanism. The client who hired them through her was a shell company Vesk controlled. Daniela was never the watchdog. She was the delivery system, and she had no idea. The broken clasp at her throat didn't just hold a piece of jewelry. It held the pendant that is now on Vesk's neck, the spiral compass medallion. Vesk didn't steal it recently. According to the ledger's earliest entries, she's had it for over a year. Daniela has been operating on instructions she can't fully reconstruct, from a source she can't clearly remember, for longer than she understood. Drea watches her read and says nothing, which is its own kind of kindness. The reversal goes in clean. Ethan finds the demolition override codes in the metal case. Drea throws them to him via earpiece character by character, and he locks out the remote detonation. Vesk's team hits the trigger from somewhere offshore and gets nothing. Hudson reroutes every working camera in the building to record Vesk at her table. Time-stamped inarguable. Her face above the spiral pendant, caught. Sanskriti presents the deal to Vesk through Julian, still at the table. Walk away with nothing or be inside when the override expires in 40 minutes. Vesk listens. She does not move. The painted smile has not changed. And then she reaches into the folds of her gown and presses a secondary trigger nobody knew existed. One charge in the hull below the vault corridor. Just one, but it's enough. The Orient doesn't list this time. It lurches. The vault corridor floods fast and cold, water hammering through a split seam in the hull below the grating, where Cooper and Drea are still standing. Cooper grabs Drea's wrist and they run. He is not performing now. No theater, no bit, just two people running very fast away from rising water in a corridor with one exit, and the exit is up. The water comes faster than it should. The audience is not entirely sure they're going to make it. Cooper is not laughing. They make it. They surface on the service deck, soaking and breathing hard, the door slamming behind them on a corridor that is already half underwater. Drea bends over her knees for 3 seconds exactly, then straightens, pushes her dripping hair out of her face, and announces that she is furious. Cooper laughs. He is still catching his breath when he starts laughing, and somehow that is worse than if he'd been calm. Vesk moves for the vault. Whatever is inside, whatever the pendant connects to, whatever the fog means, she will not leave it behind. She is the only person still moving downward in a building that is failing fast, and she moves with purpose, which is either courage or something that has stopped caring about the distinction. Kibben is standing in front of the vault door. He didn't plan to be here, or maybe he did, in the way he seems to know things without knowing that he knows them. Vesk looks at him with the gray eyes and the smile and says nothing. Kibben holds up the pendant by its platinum chain. Then he opens his fingers and drops it. Vesk goes after it without a word. Past Kibben, into the vault, down toward the water, rising through the floor grating, the phosphorescent fog swirling around her ankles as she reaches in. The crew does not follow. Kibben turns and walks away, and nobody has to say anything because the hull below them is failing, and waiting is the same as dying. Sanskriti hits the final override expiration manually. Not to kill Vesk. Because the compromised charges in the flooded hull below are going to give way regardless, and every second they wait is a second the exits close. The lower decks go in sequence, deep, structural, final. The Orient gives a long, slow groan and begins to settle hard to one side. The crew reaches the service deck rail in a pack, all 9 of them soaking or near it. Jameson still filming, Hudson with his badge ripped off and stuffed in his pocket. Drea with the ledger sealed in a zippered inner pocket she found somewhere, and they go over the rail together as the casino folds into itself behind them, amber light and green felt and gold mirrors descending into the black. Vesk does not come up. The building comes down exactly as she planned it, contained, deliberate, final, just with her inside it. The water swallows the last of the amber light. The surface goes dark and then still, and the Orient is simply gone, as though it was never there, which perhaps was always the point. They make shore in the dark, soaking, adrenaline-wrecked, half-laughing, half-silent, the way people are when the thing they were afraid would kill them has conclusively failed to kill them. Jameson has his camera out immediately. Cooper is already narrating his own highlights to anyone within earshot. Daniela sits apart, wringing water from her hair, not talking. Kibben notices it when he opens his fist. He has no memory of closing it, no memory of reaching for anything, but there it is. The spiral-etched compass medallion, intact, resting in his palm, warm despite the cold water, warm in a way cold water should have fixed long ago. He looks at it for a long moment. He looks up at Daniela. She is already looking at it, has been looking at it from the moment she saw it, with an expression that is somewhere between recognition and grief, the expression of someone seeing a thing they lost before they knew they were losing it. Kibben crosses the shore and holds out his hand. She takes it. Her fingers close around it and don't open. The fog comes in. Not weather. It moves too fast and too completely, rolling off the water in the same moment Daniela's fingers close, swallowing the shoreline, the wrecked dark water, the whole world behind them in one quiet breath. Phosphorescent. The same fog as the vault. Nobody says the word for what this is because nobody has the word yet. Ahead of them through the fog, a road resolves narrow, cracked asphalt, dark tree line pressing in on both sides, no streetlights, no sound, total silence. The crew looks at each other. There is no map. There is no briefing. There is only the road, going somewhere, in a direction that is forward. They walk. What else is there? Jameson goes last. He turns his camera back toward the fog behind them and holds it there for 5 seconds, catching something in the static. A grand ballroom, tilting slowly into black water, the amber chandeliers still lit as they go under. He watches the static. Then he pockets the camera and follows. Kibben is last to step onto the road. He reaches up and unthreads one strand from his cord necklace, the shortest one, the frayed one, and it snaps cleanly. He doesn't look back. From somewhere to his left, padding out of the fog with the directness of an animal that has somewhere specific to be, comes a medium-sized gray and white cat with amber eyes and a notched ear. It falls into step beside him without ceremony, heading the same direction as everyone else, clearly already knowing the way. Nobody questions the cat. That's the thing. Not one of them stops, points, asks where it came from or what it means. Hobo simply walks, and the crew walks, and the fog holds them all in the same quiet direction. Collective exhaustion, maybe? Or something older than that. Cooper falls into step beside Drea, still wringing water from the hem of his jersey with one hand. His dollar bill scarf is gone, dissolved somewhere in the flood, and without it he looks almost ordinary. Almost. He opens his mouth, and she cuts him off before a single word lands. "Don't," Drea says. One word. Cooper closes his mouth, thinks about it for approximately 3 seconds, and then grins anyway. The grin of someone who has decided that surviving counts as winning regardless of the margin. Drea does not grin, but something at the corner of her mouth moves. Daniela walks near the front, fingers still closed around the pendant. She hasn't opened her hand since the shore. Sanskriti walks beside her, not saying anything, not asking anything, just there, the way you are beside someone who has just learned something enormous about themselves and doesn't have the language for it yet. Kibben watches the road. Hobo watches Kibben. There is an understanding between them that requires no explanation and receives none. He reaches up once, briefly, and touches the cord necklace, 9 strands now where there were 10, and lets his hand drop. Forward. Only forward. The fog does not thin. The road does not end. Not yet. But somewhere ahead, just past the edge of what any of them can see, the dark tree line opens. Not much. Enough. The crew of 9-10, if you count the cat, walks toward it, carrying everything they can't yet name and nothing they were hired to take.